Welcome to the Listening Well, the space where every story matters. I'm Shania, your host and therapist, here to share real conversations and anonymous letters from listeners who are ready to speak their truth or just share something that they want to tell. Some stories are spoken, some are written, all are worth hearing. Let's listen in. Hi, it's me again with another solo episode. So I am sharing a story about my journey as a social worker. I'm an avid podcast listener. I listen to a lot of different shows, but there feels to be this theme around career exploration and people kind of finding their way and understanding what it is that they want to do. For one, I strongly believe that there's way too much pressure on literal 16 to 18-year-olds to figure out what their entire future is supposed to be when they're in high school. I have a lot of thoughts about that. So for me, I've always wanted to be a therapist. I am a therapist today. I'm a licensed master social worker. I'm also an operations officer for a grassroots nonprofit. I always wanted to be a therapist, but my journey to where I am today, pretty much there were a lot of opportunities for me to not be a therapist or not be a therapist today. So I'll give you the spiel. So as a young kid, I was kind of constantly surrounded by people who struggled with mental illness in some kind of way. And backstory. The reason why I'm sharing this story is because I recently had the opportunity to share about this story in an interview for a position that I just got to work for this amazing organization. I'll share more about them when there's more information for me to do so. To work under a private practice that predominantly assists the mental health of people of color. We snap our fingers, yes. But anyways, I was able to share that story in there, and it was the first time in an interview I felt like I could be 100% myself and to not feel like I had to script what it is that I was sharing. So I'm like, you know what? I'm compelled to put it on the show. So that's what I'm doing today. Okay. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So as a teenager growing up and whatnot, I was always constantly surrounded by other teens, like my peers, who I know today now that they were struggling with their mental health. Like I had a best friend who, trigger warning, who would cut, from what I know now today, that they were, struggling with depression, self-image, self-mutilation, and things like that. I myself am someone who dealt with major depressive disorder as a child when I look back on it for a long time. I also had an eating disorder for a really long time throughout my middle school and high school years. So in response to that, I wanted to become a therapist. And I think it was my junior year of high school. I don't know what class it was in, had something to do with career development or I don't know. Figure out your future when you're 17 years old. That's the class that's what I'm going to call it. And in this class, you had to, figure out what it is that you wanted to do, what college you wanted to go to, blah, 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 blah. And me, all this time, I'm like, I'm going to be a therapist. I'm going to be a therapist. I never told anybody that. I just knew that was what I was going to do. I've always been the type of person that don't tell people what I'm going to do. I just do it. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Towson University in Maryland for no real reason at all. I went to Maryland once with my family to Baltimore, and I'm like, I want to go to school here. Why? Couldn't tell you. But as part of this project, I had to, review the school, all the details about it. That's when I learned about the tuition. And I knew that I was going to have to put myself through school. So that was big, wide awakening for me. And by doing that, I also learned that at that time, when you look up the credentials of a therapist, you see master's level psychologist, master's level this, master's level that. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just the girl. But I had a realization that I'm obviously not going to be able to get my master's because I have to put myself through school. Who, where, when, how, you know what I'm saying? Very realistic. I've always been a very logical person. So through doing that project, I was really trying to figure out what the heck am I supposed to do? It literally threw me into an existential crisis. As someone who's a junior in high school, probably should be worrying about something else. You know what I'm saying? So then I was like, oh, maybe I'll be a nurse. I took an anatomy and physiology class my senior year. Wasn't for me. I'm like, this sucks. I hate this a lot. And I took AP psychology my junior year. Loved it. Then I took intro to psychology my senior year. That was their fault. loved it, aced it. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I've got to figure this out. So then my freshman year of college, I went in under general studies because I still did not know what I was supposed to do. I'm like, I want to be a therapist, but I have to wait until I've done 6 years of schooling to be able to actually do something. If I go for my psych degree, I'm like, that's crazy. That's not logical. Right now, I'm working as like a sheet supervisor doing overnights and all this and that while I'm going to school full time. I'm like, I can't wait another however many years. At that time, it would have been like 6 years to be able to leave that job. It was a great job for what it was. It taught me a lot of boundaries, you know? But yeah, I was like, what can I do? So at some point, I was friends with someone who had a book about social work because they were thinking about going to school for social work or something. They never ended up going to school, but that's how I learned about social work. So I'm like, okay, like let me look into it. I'm like, all right, you know, there looks to be a career pathway here. Like I can start as a social worker doing what have you, and then, you know, eventually I can become a therapist. So I'm like, all right, cool. I signed up for my first intro to social work class. I loved it so much. I'm like, you know what? This is where I belong. This is where I need to be. And I felt so deeply connected. I went to Northampton Community College, great school. Graduated from that. I went to ESU, great school. I graduated with a like advanced degree. So then for my master's degree program, I only had to do 2 years instead of one part time. Amazing, great things. So part of my fork in the road of becoming a therapist is because I became extremely burnt out while I was in my leap year. So I went straight through my associates, my bachelor's, graduate. I became a mental health case manager. I loved the work that I did. And when you go to school as a social worker, they're like, you're here to change the world. You won't get paid, accept it, but you're here to change the world. So that's like how I'm coming in, you know, like I'm here to be a change maker. I'm here to be a voice to the people. I'm here because I want to make legitimate change. I want to help people make a difference. You know what I'm saying? And I love the work that I did for 3 years. I went in as an intensive case manager, working with people who had mental health illnesses, generally serious mental health illnesses. So you're talking about like schizophrenia, BPD, bipolar, et cetera, major depressive disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD, blah, 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 you know, all the things. And there are also folks who are on Medicaid and Medicare. So that's a whole nother slew of barriers and things. And in that work, you are in someone's life. I'm going into homes. I'm in the Lehigh Valley. I'm going into homes, and I'm there from 8 to 4. Like you are submerged in someone's life. And my biggest piece was always trying to create a safety net because I always thought that it was ridiculous to create dependence on services by me being the only person that they're working with. I'm like, heck no, you don't have people. Let's find the people. You need other people. We're going to find those people, those services, get you connected for what you need, right? And I don't know what year it is. I'm not going to do the year thing because I'm going to forget. I'm going to sit here and think about it for entirely too long. But there came a point when I had a client that I was working with for 2 years, maybe. At that point, I was a resource coordinator. So I had a caseload of like 65 up to 70 people that I would see varying between like bi-weekly or once a month. This client was like one of my favorite people to work with. And you have your favorites. You do. One of my favorite people to work with just because she was such a beautiful souled person. Her dog quite literally looked like my dog too. It was like crazy. And I've seen her just like grow and become the person that she was at that point. And there was a situation that took place, trigger warning again, where unfortunately she started dating this boyfriend that she was with before, and she never really talked about this person before, nothing negative about them before. And when I was there, you know, coming into the home, sometimes they were there, like no like bad experiences. They made like a couple fights here and there, like nothing physical, just like arguments, you know, like regular relationship things, right? And the one day I'm gonna give you a little geography. So I am in Allentown on 7th Street at the Salvation Army. I'm speaking to a client. In that place, you have like windows. So you can't meet with someone like inside the Salvation Army, like where all the people are. You have to sit inside the lobby, and there's windows. You can see right into it. And I get a call from my supervisor, and you know, I banged it because I'm in a session, like I'm meeting with someone. And he was like, "Hey, it was an emergency. You got to call me back." So I'm walking out, standing on the sidewalk of 7th Street. Somebody's like on the other side, like there's these people that are always working on their cars, blaring music. 7th Street busy. There's always cars, people, loud noises, music, right? And he gets on the phone. He was like, "Hey, like, are you in a good place?" And I'm like, "This is where I'm at." Like, my client's like right in there, like they see me. And he was like, "Your client was murdered and by her boyfriend." And they don't tell you. They tell you about grief in social work to be able to help other people, not really yourself. They don't really tell you how to help yourself in social work. I think they do a better job now. When I got to my master's, they did. But nobody tells you about what to do, how to navigate when a tragedy happens to one of your clients. Nobody tells you that. And I remember, like, I went back into the room with the person that was waiting for me, that I was talking to, that could obviously see me right outside the window because it's glass. And I'm like, "Hey, like, there's an emergency. I'm going to have to have us reschedule. I'll send you some dates. We'll reconnect. I'm sorry for this to be so abrupt." I get in my car. I start driving home, and I just start bawling my eyes out. Like, the wave of emotion that I experienced, I just started bawling my eyes out. And social work, like, the way that they train you, and I say train instead of teaching, because, like, the way that I was taught in school is just that you have to have this, like, demeanor where, like, nothing could faze you. Vicarious trauma, yes, you learn about it, but, like, nothing could faze you. And, like, yes, be authentic, but when people say this and that and that and this and that and that and this, like, you're supposed to, like, hold space in a supportive way where nothing can faze you. You know what I'm saying? So if someone's telling you this tragic horror story, you can't be like, "Oh my gosh," And it kind of creates a wall, like a bridge between your ability to access certain emotions when it comes to your clients. And I get that, like, that's important to be able to make sure that you're protecting yourself, that you're not carrying everything coming home. But, like, what do you do when your client was murdered and you're really messed up about that? Like, I cried, shaken, going all the way home, 20-minute drive. Got home. At the time, my husband was my boyfriend. I'm bawling my eyes out in his arms, and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. And I felt like my supervisor couldn't do nothing for me. The director couldn't do nothing for me, but saying, like, "I'm so sorry, blah, 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 take some time off," whatever. Wasn't hearing them. And then, like, I know now that what I experienced following that was burnout, because I hated getting up to go to work. Any moment that I could take a day off, I would. I was going through the motions with my clients, and then I had to find another job. And, like, from there, I'm like, you know what? If I can't deal with something like this, then I don't know if I'm good enough to be a therapist. So from there, it became my drive of being the change maker, of wanting to go into, like, social work administration and social work management so that I could be a better person to the people that I wanted to be there for me when I was going through something so horrible as a staff person, as a social worker, as a person, and navigating, like, what that meant for me. Like, the fact that my client was murdered and there's nothing I could do, and that I have all these feelings and emotions and no way to process them. No way to process them. Supervision is supposed to be that, but it's like, how do you hold space for that? That person didn't know how to do that, and that's okay. They don't teach you how to do that, but that's what I needed. So then I went into my master's, like, screw therapy, not for me. You want to teach me all this stuff about clinical blah blah blah, whatever. Like, I'm doing admin, management, blah blah blah. And, like, that was the deal. Didn't think about therapy ever again. I would have these little moments in my head, and I'm like, "Oh, like, what if I became a therapist?" And I'm like, "No, Shania, you can't handle it. Remember what happened?" And that was my like mindset constantly. And then I recently got burnt out from this position that I'm in, and, like, this connection with leadership and having the sense of what that means to be a leader in an organization kind of become my entire identity. And that's dangerous. Don't let your job become your entire identity. No matter how high up you are with an organization, business, whatever that may be, you always need something else. Whether that's something else that you do for money, for work-wise, something else that you do, whatever. You need another identity that is just not your job. Like, yes, of course, you're still sister, friend, cousin, daughter, whatever, but you need something outside of that too. So I started therapy, and when I was talking about my whole life's journey, like I'm just explaining right now. She was like, why don't you do therapy? And I was like, you got a point. So that's how I got to where I am now, where I'm doing therapy. And I absolutely love it. I think having my both sides being fulfilled, like I love being in management and social work and being able to be a change maker there. But it's also extremely important for me to be able to be a change maker one-on-one within people's lives too. And being a therapist is definitely different from being a case manager as well. And that was my biggest things of like, I don't know if I can become submerged in people's lives like this again and be able to help myself, even with all these tools and information that I know. And from doing therapy, totally different ballgame. It's still important to make sure that you have your self-care in place and your support system and things like that, but you are not submerged in someone's life in that way. But vicarious trauma is a real thing. Hearing someone's stories is impactful, so you have to make sure that you take care of yourself. And I still got my therapist, so I talk to her about things that I need to. I talk to my supervisor about things that I need to, and it's really great. So why did I want to say this story? I think my piece is like, just go about life in the way that it's meant to be. We all have our trajectories of who we want to become and what that's supposed to look like. And if it's not fitting in that exact way, just let it happen, because you'll get to wherever your end game is at whatever point that is, however you're meant to. Because like, even though like this is where I am now, I know I'm not going to be doing this forever. And whatever that looks like, great. I was someone who had such a hard, strong perfectionist mindset that I have spent like probably the past 3 to 4 years breaking down. And to be in a space where it's like, well, if I went for that and it didn't work out, well, wasn't for me. Door closes, another one open. You know what I'm saying? So to anyone that's listening to this and maybe you're getting started in your journey of figuring out what you want to do for your career pathway, or even if you're someone who is a fellow social worker or interested in becoming a social worker, what your journey looks like is independent, up to you. And when it comes to the boxes that a lot of these schools try to put you in, you're allowed to do whatever you want. This is your life. And even if you dedicate however many years to something and you're no longer interested in that anymore, go do something else. I just got my certificate in project management, and I'm very interested in doing that too. Like, well, it's connected to what I do in the nonprofit sector in terms of an operations officer. I might want to go work for a big business and be a project manager. So, life is whatever you make it to be, and everyone's journey looks different, as it should be. And that is my story today. So thank you for listening. Thanks for joining me at the Listening Well. If you have a story, a secret you've never shared, or a question you'd like advice on, or just something that you would like to share with somebody else, you can send it in anonymously if you wish at the email thelisteningwell25@gmail.com. Every story matters here, and I can't wait to hear yours. Until next time, keep listening and sharing.